G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, August the 14th, 2023. And I love coming on here and seeing comments all ready to go. Now, old mate Big J is already in the house. I've got us, what are we looking at? George and Maxi. Yes, we'll get to that. Plenty to discuss tonight, guys. Some of the things I want to roll out there. We've got the big fight on the weekend. We had Emmanuel Navarrete with the win over Oscar Valdez. We had Anthony Joshua, of course, over Robert Helenius. Some really good fight. A lot of news. I want to hear your thoughts on the head splitter, Isaac Hardman, at the card last week. Canelo after Jamal. Is he going to go for Jamal? That's another talking point. We'll talk about next week's fight card roughly with the No Limit pay-per-view. Of course, we'll cover that next Monday in detail, but I want to cover that. Dempsey McKeon fell short, so I want to hear about that. And also, if we get time, we'll go over the box rec schedule as well as the women's top 10 and the male top 10 of the Australian fight scene. Let's get into it, guys. And look, no particular order here. As always, it's your show. I must say that straight off the bat. This is your show. I'm just the host. I have a bit of a chat about things. And yeah, as I said, you guys dictate which way we go. And as I said, there's lots to talk about tonight. Big J, let's get into your comment first. Glad to see you changed your mind. Referencing George and Maxi Hughes. Definitely a Hughes win. McKeon looked like shit against Hrgovic, but he didn't look much better. Eddie will probably drop him after this. All right, well, on to the what's your verdict fight there, Big J. Yes, I finally got around to watching the fight again, George Kambosos and Maxi Hughes, and I must say, I'm a George Kambosos fan. I really am. He's a great fighter. I really love everything that he brings to not just only Australian boxing, but world boxing. He's just one of those guys you love to watch, whether you love him or hate him. I think he's great for the sport. And I tried my best to give him some of these rounds, I will admit, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't see how he outboxed Maxi Hughes. Don't worry, I got some comments back from a lot of people out there, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, private messages, whatever it might be, good and bad. Look, it's just an objective view. Now, I did say before I watched the fight, or when I got back, that on the night I thought that Maxi Hughes won 5 of the first 6. George came home and it was a close fight. I'm sorry, I just cannot see how George Kambosos won the fight. As I said, I'm a massive fan. They did let me into the camp over there. Maybe I won't get a return invitation. I don't know, but it's nothing personal. It's just my own unbiased view that I just thought Maxi Hughes did enough. The one thing I will say, though, that I've said numerous times, the fact that he didn't close out the fight might have went against him. George continued to hunt him down. I just don't think he had any success. The poll on Instagram, I think it's finished now. I think it was 62.5% for Maxi Hughes. Whatever, what's that, 37 or, sorry, I think it was 35 or so, and then the draw. There was a draw in there as well. Someone had it a draw. But either way, 62.5% of you guys out there thought that Maxi Hughes won the fight. So give me your thoughts. Am I dreaming? I don't think I am, because 99% of the people I've spoken to, said, mate, about time you came around. You know, we didn't agree with you after you got back and you said that maybe it was close or George even got it. We're glad that you've watched it and you've come to your senses. So, yeah, as I said, I had it 116, 112. I still cannot get my head around the fact that someone had it 117, 111 for George. But even with George as the A side, I just could not give him the fight. I'm sorry. And as I said, I might not be invited back to have any inner sanctum access, but it is what it is. I'm not going to compromise integrity of this show to score brownie points. So that's that one. What's the other one you got there? Oh, Dempsey McKeon, yeah, against Philip Hrgovic. Look, sometimes with not just Aussie fighters, but boxers from all around the world, when you step up to that elite level, and with all due respect to Dempsey, he has, even though he's rated pretty highly by a few of the organisations, he's never fought at that level. And sometimes you just don't know the level you're at until you're there. I mean, take for instance, if you're in the reserves, whether it be AFL, league, whatever it might be, I think it's a second grade, whatever they call it in the league. We call it reserves in the AFL. And then you step up to the seniors or the number one side, and all of a sudden you're in deep waters and you're not quite sure how to react. I got a little bit of that impression yesterday. Not that Hrgovic's that great a fighter, I don't think, but I just thought the step up for Dempsey, he just struggled with the pace of it. He struggled. Obviously, he got stopped in the 12th round. I think a lot of it had exhaustion, had probably a lot to do with it as well. But the thing is, you don't know whether you're at the level till you get there. And look, I take the hat off to Dempsey or whoever else is at or has made an attempt to be at that level. We had a lot of fighters that have fallen short when they've stepped up. Dempsey's just another one at the moment. But I've got no doubt that now he's got a taste of it, he will become a better fighter. Whether that's enough for him to make that jump up to that A-grade status, well, we'll see. But yeah, look, it was a tough initiation to Dempsey in the big time. Didn't help, by the way. He got rabbit punched over and over and over again. So, not to say Hrgovic didn't deserve his win. He did. He got the job done. But Dempsey, yeah, I think afterwards wouldn't have been, or he would have been a bit shaken with those punches on the back of the head. But will Eddie drop him? Well, he dropped Brock Jarvis, didn't he? He's dropped other fighters out there. Look, it's a hard game, Big J, as you know, no doubt as well. It's a hard game that we're in, and whether he gets another crack at it, we'll see. Look, at the worst case, he'll come back to Australia. Ace Boxing will take him back on, build him back up, and who knows, maybe Eddie will take him back. But it's a tough initiation, and he learnt that yesterday. But good team behind him. I'm sure he'll come back. Another one from Big J. Liam Wilson also dreaming if he thinks he gets a rematch against Navarrete. So, yeah, look, I think I'm with you there, Big J. Not the fact that I think Navarrete, is reluctant to fight Liam or whatever. I don't think it's about that. It's a business to these guys. Liam Wilson, we still talk about it, but I've got to, again, face reality here that Navarrete, Liam Wilson would be in his rearview mirror way back. Way in the distance. He'd be looking forward. I know he's talking about maybe fights with Shakur Stevenson, and there's a few other, maybe a Valdez rematch, who knows. But I've got a feeling that Liam Wilson is nowhere near his thoughts at the moment. Liam Wilson's got to build himself back up, which he's going to start doing next week. So no doubt that I think Liam Wilson's at the level. It's just that, Navarrete, these guys, they move on pretty quick. Liam Wilson was a late replacement, or a late-ish replacement for that defence last time when Valdez had to pull out. So I think Navarrete would have just taken that fight as a, close shave. Okay, probably took it for granted, almost lost it, and he'd move on. I don't think he'd be looking at a Liam Wilson rematch. However, we would love to see it, and I'm sure Liam and Benny Harrington, everyone would love to see it. I'm just not quite sure whether that's on the agenda of Navarrete at this stage of his career. We'll get to that fight in a second too, guys. It was a great fight. I'll get through a few comments and we'll go back. Carl is in the house, a.k.a. the Boxing Kangaroo. Good to see you break down the Kambosos Hughes. Thanks, mate. Look, it's a really tough one, especially when you do these videos by yourself. If you're sitting there and you're talking to somebody and you go back and forth and you bounce things off each other and maybe debate and discuss and argue, who knows? But when you've got to sit there and analyse a 12-round fight, it is hard, I will say, Carl. But look, I just tried to do it as objectively as I could. And as I said before, mate, I just couldn't see how George won that fight. I thought Maxi Hughes fought really, really well. And I was really surprised that that George couldn't or wouldn't change tactics during the fight to what Maxi Hughes did. Because let's face it, Maxi Hughes didn't do anything different for the entire 12 rounds. Nothing. He moved to his right, he moved to his left, he poked out the jab to try to draw George to throw the right hand, and now boom, he'd come back with the counter left hand or the counter right hook, whatever it might be. But that was his plan, and he stuck to it. Now, whether that was to his detriment towards the end, as I've said a few times, who knows? But I think the fact that George couldn't or wouldn't adjust really surprised me. Maybe it was a southpaw thing. I think George has only fought one southpaw very early in his career. Maybe that threw him off. And Maxi Hughes too, he was quite small. He I don't know, is he fought at lightweight his whole career? I'm not quite sure. Maybe I should check, but he looked a lot smaller than George. George definitely had the size, the power, probably the weight on Maxi Hughes, but I just don't think he used it to his advantage. And I thought that Maxi Hughes, he just did everything that he was supposed to do. So I think the one thing he could probably walk away with from that fight is he couldn't have done anything more. He fought the perfect fight that what they went into. I think he'd had 5 losses, now 6. I just thought he fought the perfect fight for his ability and where he's at in his career. Unfortunately, the judges didn't see it that way, and they didn't give him the win. I'm hoping he gets another big fight. I don't think the George Kambosos rematch will happen, but I would really love to see Maxi Hughes get another fight at the level, because I think he's more than earned it. So we'll see what happens there. G'day to you, Steve Bateman. How are you, mate? Get through a few more comments there. Carl says, poor Dempsey didn't stand a chance, did he? Yeah, look, as I said, Carl, it's just, as I say, there's levels in the sport, and I just thought he just struggled a little bit at that level. And not to say, I I have a bit of trouble. I'm going to call him Grovic, okay, because it might be, but it's just easier for me to spit out. Grovic, I just think, even though he's not the greatest fighter, he has been at the level before. And I just thought Dempsey struggled to get up to that level, and of course, was a little bit outclassed in the end. But look, a brave performance by Dempsey McKean, and now he's been there. Hopefully, he can learn from it. He can regroup. He's only young for a heavyweight, so I'm sure he can come back, and he'll get plenty of other opportunities. He's just going to have to earn it. Big J, what do we got there, mate? Hardman, not too bad, but nothing special. Defence still needs work. I'm glad you brought that up, Big J, because this is another topic. I run the risk of alienating people that I'm associated with. I've promoted Isaac a few times. He's a really good guy. I've spoken to him at fights. He's a great guy, great character for Australian and hopefully world boxing. But in my opinion, he has to work on some things if he's going to go to that next level, because he fought Michael Zarafa, and I know he got caught cold, but Zarafa really exposed a few areas where he was deficient in. Rowan Murdoch especially did it over a 10-round distance. Look, the Japanese guy, look, let's face it, he certainly wasn't a world-level fighter, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Isaac's working his way back. He's getting out of the Australian pool and into the international. No dramas with the opponent. If I've got to say it frankly, I think that Japanese guy was the perfect opponent for Isaac at this stage of his career. Just coming back, he was awkward, he was cagey. He had a few skills, but not at world level, if we're being honest. So again, as I said, Isaac did everything I thought he needed to do to break him down, get the stoppage. What was it, 6th round or whatever it was, and now he moves on. But one or a couple of things I think he really needs to work on, if I'm being honest, Big J. One is the head movement. He does not move his head. He walks in a straight line at his opponents, and that works okay. And he's got great power. I think he could have even more power if he just adjusted a few things. And one, as I said, is that head movement. He doesn't move the head. He walks straight at his opponent, and he almost arm punches. So the amount of incredible power that he has, I know it's probably timing's got a lot to do with it, but the incredible power that he has, I think if he just give himself a little bit of movement and just ease in and then smack that right hand in, he could do some major damage out there. So that's probably one thing. The other thing I really think he needs to do, it's only a small thing, I would like to see him just bend his knees a little bit. He stands straight up in the air. And again, that takes away from your power because you can't shift your body weight to get that power. And I think both of those things in general, if he just tweaked a couple of those things, and maybe if he needs to bring in maybe another set of eyes to help out Blair Studley, who's doing great things with Isaac, and he's a great guy as well. Just someone that's probably been around the boxing scene for a long time, who can just come in and tweak a couple of things. And that's what I'd be telling Isaac. Head movement, and bend those knees a little bit to give yourself even more leverage, because the head movement, or an in-turn body movement, in conjunction with the bent knees and shifting the body weight, geez, the amount of extra power that he could generate, and also get himself a few different angles, become a little bit less one-dimensional that he is, and that's what makes Isaac even like what he's done so far even more special. You've got to remember, he's an MMA guy. That's how he started his career. And I just think he fights still a little bit like an MMA fighter. Because I've said numerous times on this show, I've never seen an MMA fighter, whether it be local or UFC or whatever it might be, that has half decent boxing skills. And I think if Isaac gets away from the MMA type of stand-up boxing, I think he could do some major damage. And those, just a couple of little tweaks, bend the knees, bit of head movement / body movement, and we've got a different fighter on our hands. And the fact that he's done what he's done so far, the sky's the limit for the head splitter. All right, Carl says, how many times did George vote on the poll? Well, he does tend to actually comment a lot on these shows, so I'm not sure. Normally you could actually check, can't you, on Instagram? And I must admit I didn't do it to see who's actually looked at your post. Maybe I should have actually tagged them or whatever they call it. I'm not quite sure. But who knows, Carl? Maybe it was a few times. Didn't quite get him across the line, though, mate. We had probably about 80 or 90 people that voted. And as I said before, 62.5% voted that Maxie Hughes won. One person had it a draw. So the rest of them, and whatever percentages that works out to. So But good question though, Carl. I like it. What have we got there? All right, another one from Carl. I think Isaac is getting better, but still not on the world-class level. Not sure if he'll get there. Yeah, well, mate, it's a valid point. I'm with you. And again, as much as I think of Isaac and what he's done so far, the fact remains for me that he's probably even not quite where, say, a Dempsey McKean was. On the cusp, good domestic level fighter at the moment. Some regional belts thrown in there and that as well. But the step up, he's already had a taste of it with Rowan Murdoch and Michael Zarafa. And look, credit to both of those guys. I think Rowan Murdoch, I for one thought Rowan Murdoch won that fight. I will say I thought it was close-ish, but I thought that Rowan Murdoch won it maybe 6 rounds to 4. Zarafa was obviously a different situation. He just got caught cold. I'd like to actually see down the track, and whether he gets an opportunity or not, we'll see. I'd like to see him get another crack at Michael Zarafa now. Maybe we won't see because Michael's obviously moved on to bigger and better things. He's got that world title shot. And maybe there's too much spite between the two that Michael Zarafa won't give Isaac Hardman the satisfaction of getting a rematch. But I'd just like to see Isaac, who's openly admitted that he rushed it in the first fight, probably got a little bit ahead of himself or where he was. And Michael Zarafa, love him or hate him, he's at the world level. I still think he's at the bottom end of the world level, but he's still there. And I think Isaac got a real rude awakening of the skills of Michael Zarafa or someone at Michael's level, and the power of Michael Zarafa, and the fact that he couldn't just walk through guys that he was doing in the past. So he got a real good wake up or a lesson from Michael Zarafa. So I'd like to see him do it again. Not quite sure the result would change. I just don't think Michael would do it the way he did it before. But I would like to see Isaac get another crack at him with another maybe 4 or 5 fights under his belt. But we'll see. But he's on the right track now. He's got the win over the Japanese fighter. So, yeah, good. And what was his name? Hang on. Where was it? I've got the event up there. Kazuki Kayahara. So he dropped to 6-2-3. Isaac Hardman now 14-2. The rest of that card, by the way, what do you think of it? I was a little bit, like that. I thought Blake Wells, Tej Pratap Singh. I thought Singh won comprehensively. The scores were there, 79, 73 times 2, 76, 76. Definitely wasn't a draw. That is 100%. Tej Singh won that fight. A little bit surprised, I will say, that Blake Wells thought he'd won the fight afterwards. But I thought Tej Singh fought a really good fight. Jeez, wouldn't you hate to fight that guy? Oh, my God. Blake Wells has actually got some skill. He's got some power. I think he's actually a pretty good fighter who actually could be a really good fighter. Maybe could fight someone like an Isaac Hardman, or I know they're a little bit different in weight. Maybe Blake is a level above or a weight division above. But they're the type. I actually think he's a good fighter. But Tej Singh, holy shit. I would not like to fight him because I think his technique is horrible. He's like his footwork is horrible. Everything about him is horrible, but he gets the job done. A little bit like our mate Emmanuel Navarrete that we'll get to soon. But Tej Singh, he's just all over you. He's just in your face the whole time and does not stop throwing punches. My only thing with Blake Wells would have been my advice to him, rather than try. I know that the game plan looked like they were going to try and box him, give him a few angles. It just wasn't working. My advice to Blake Wells would have been, as silly as it sounds, because of the way Tej Singh fights, to actually take Tej Singh on, because he's not a big puncher. What did he have? I can't see how many knockouts he's had there. But he's not a big puncher, but he's a volume puncher, and he smothers you. If I was Blake Wells or his trainer, I would have said to Blake, do the opposite. Don't try and box him and let him smother you and just with punches, and he just wraps him up. It's like an octopus trying to get hold of you. What he should have done is actually try and back Tej Singh up. He's got power, he's got speed, he's got ability. That's what my advice to Blake Wells would have been. Meet him in center ring and make him back up, because coming at you, you've got no chance. He's just going to be all over you like spaghetti sauce on noodles. That's what it was like. So the only way I think he was going to beat him is to meet him in center ring, head on, and back him up. And as I said, Tej Singh hasn't got a lot of power. A lot of punches, but not a lot of power. Meet him in center ring and back him up, because I think if he was on the back foot, I think that would have been an easy night for Blake Wells, if you ask me. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I wasn't the one in there in the ring. I'm just saying it the way I saw it outside. Sometimes you've got to almost go against what's the obvious thing, and the obvious thing was box him, give him angles, nice combinations, get him on the back foot. But after 2 rounds, 3 rounds, it was obvious that he just couldn't keep Tej Singh off. So what's next? Back him up and try and take him out. That's what my advice would have been. All right, sorry guys, I'm falling behind here in the comments. We'll keep going. We've got Carl there again. Sorry, that's the last comment. Jules, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. What do we got there? Evening all. Glad to hear integrity of Boxing Deep Dive takes precedence over making friends in the industry. Yeah, well, we'll see how many friends I've got going forward, Jules, because the more shows we do and the more of these things I do, I'm bound to upset people. I think I've already upset Michael Zarafa. I used to always get along well with Michael, but he hasn't returned my texts the last few times. I think he didn't like the way I maybe covered the Isaac Carbon. I don't know, but to be honest with you, Jules, I don't care. You know, this is I created this show to have as I said before, an objective show, talk boxing with you guys, and if it gets me in trouble, it gets me in trouble. But one thing I will say, and I've said it a few times, I'll never say anything on this show that I'm not prepared to say to that particular fighter or fans or trainers or whatever it might be if I was actually confronted about it or whatever it might be. So I stand by my comments, mate. But you're right. Maybe I'll have the old change room door slammed in my face next time. No credentials for you, Boxing Deep Dive, but we'll see. Carl says the whole card was bad. Yeah, well, the no limit card. Yeah, all right. So we've covered those two fights. The other one was Ralph Etienne with a third round KO of Riley Powers. Geez, that was interesting, wasn't it? I thought Riley Powers was knocked out, but the referee sort of let it go. And I must admit, I looked away and looked back again. I thought, he's actually let this guy keep going. I thought the fight should have been stopped. What do you guys think? But wasn't the greatest fight. I don't know. Look, I know they've got to fill the card, but I just don't think it was really TV worthy. The other one was, who was it? Monye Fati, trained by Billy Dibb, who had the second round knockout of Jerome Pascua. I know Billy Dibb said after the fight that he thinks Fatty, it wouldn't be Fatty, it'd be Fatty, is a world champion in the making. Look, for me, the jury is well and truly out on that one. Let's wait until if he actually fights someone of note. I mean, Pascua was 7-6, hadn't really fought anyone from New Zealand. The other guys he's fought one that was 2-1. Another one had a debut. The other one was 6-7-2. Another debut. One of them was 0-22. One of his opponents, and then Pascua. So not to say the guy can't fight. Look, he showed a little bit, but I refuse to get sucked into these guys that get signed up by a promotional firm, knock over a few patsies, and then all of a sudden they're going to be the next big thing. I want to wait until I see him fight someone of note, and then I'll make my call. But I refuse. I've been asked a few times actually about what I thought of Fatty. I'm not going to make a comment to say he's got some skills, but until he fights someone that actually can fight back of note, then I'll reserve judgment. BJ says, back to Dempsey McKean, a perfect example of a padded record getting exposed. His competition was lacking before the Grovic fight. Ref was also shit. Yeah, he was. The referee was pretty average there, mate. As I said, he let Grovic get away with a bit as well. But yeah, look, I'll agree with you, Big J, that there's no doubt that Dempsey's record was padded, but not unlike a lot of other, not just Australian boxers, but other fighters around the world gets padded. And then, as I said earlier, you don't really know you're at the level till you're at, or not at the level till you're at the level. But it'll be a wake-up call for him. Now, whether he comes back is another thing, but yeah, I won't say he was necessarily exposed as a world-class type of fighter. I think he was just exposed a little bit of being at the stage where he's able to challenge for a world title, because that's obviously that he's not. He's not at that level yet. But as I said before, mate, he's young enough. He's had a few fights. Obviously, what is he now? He's got his record there, 22-1. So he's had 23 fights. He'll come back, but I think he now needs to realise where he's at. He's had a taste of it, and then maybe build again. Whether he's good enough, well, we'll see. James Daly, how are you, mate? Main event published an Aussie for ban list. Well, it appears like everyone is now. All right, well, I comment on that. I'll put it up on my Instagram. If you follow me out there, you would have seen it. Oh, my God, James. Oh, my God. Now, I haven't got it in front of me, but from memory, they had Sam Goodman ahead of George Kambosos. Now, I felt like headbutting the bench at that stage. How in hell, I think I put on my Instagram that maybe the intern did it or whatever it might be, but how how you could have Sam Goodman above George Kambosos, I thought it was April Fool's, to be honest, James, when I first saw it. I can't remember some of the others. I think Andrew Maloney at number 9 behind I think I said there, all due respect to Stevie Spark and a few of the others there, and even Sam Goodman, Andrew Maloney. I'll go through my top 10 a little bit later. To be ranked number 9 behind some of those guys, come on. You know, he's a former world champion. I know it was interim and then he was elevated, but he fought at the level for 5, 6, 7 years. You know, the guys just come up a fight at the MGM Grand against one of the best fighters in the world in Nakatani, who will be world pound for pound soon, no doubt. So to have guys that are untried, that have fought sort of at the level, padded records, like a lot of other guys we just discussed. Andrew Maloney's record is not padded. He's been at the level and succeeded at the level. So to be ranked number 9 behind a few of those guys, I thought it was pretty silly. James, what did you guys think of it? I just thought the Sam Goodman one, I nearly fell off my chair. And I did say that George Campos has actually commented on it. I would too. But yeah, that was just ridiculous. All right, what do we got? Let's change the subject to Navarrete. A different trajectory now. This is about the Liam Wilson fight. Yeah, he is, mate. Well and truly. I think, as I said before, Liam Wilson's in his rearview mirror now. Not to say that Liam won't get another shot at somebody. There's plenty of other champions out there that he can fight. So, yeah, who knows? I think Liam Wilson will be back. I just don't think it'll be against Navarrete. Unless maybe, I know Valdez has said he wants to fight Navarrete in a rematch. Maybe if Liam Wilson beat Valdez, maybe that will legitimise a rematch. Who knows? That would be a tough fight for Liam too, though, we'll say. Yeah, Carl, Shakur versus Navarrete is lit. Yeah, well, Shakur's at lightweight now, mate. Whether or not Navarrete goes up is another thing. But Navarrete, as I said, like tasting before, shocking footwork, shocking technique, shocking defence. But the guy just gets it done. I was surprised. I thought Valdez would win quite easily, if I'm being honest. But watching the fight, I had it 116, 112. What were the scores with that? So it was another judge who shouldn't judge again. 119 to 109. Could not give Valdez more than one round. Am I being a little bit hard here? I thought 116, 112. There might have been a couple other close rounds in there. 100% Navarrete won clearly. So 8 rounds to 4 from me. But 11 rounds to 1. He could not give Valdez more than one round. I just can't see it. One of the other judges had it the same as me, 116, 112. And the other one had it 118, 110. So, yeah, look, 10 to 2, 11 to 1. Maybe I'm missing something. I had it 8 rounds to 4. I thought it could have even been a little bit closer. Maybe, what's the other one? 9, maybe 9 to 3, 8 to 4. But, yeah, 11 to 1, 10 to 2. Yeah, not for me. But Navarrete, like, at one stage I thought he was in a little bit of trouble. He had the injured right hand. But Valdez, he had his own problems with the eye, of course. But, yeah, I just thought he fought a really, really good fight, a really smart fight. It just didn't, he had a really good game plan. He just kept the jab out there. Well, if you can call it a jab, it was really just he's just poking it out and would just come through with a clubbing right hand or the clubbing uppercut. And Valdez had no answer to it. One thing I will say with Valdez, which really surprised me, is that when Navarrete was on the attack, he went back in a straight line. And Navarrete's not the most nimblest guy. So he just likes to go in a straight line forward and back. And the fact that Valdez didn't sort of give him any angles at all really surprised me, because Valdez has shown that he can do that. He's got that big left hook. But when he was under attack, he just went straight back in a straight line and made it a hell of a lot easier for Navarrete. So, again, easier said out here than in there. But that did surprise me that Eddie Renaso in the corner didn't really have anything extra for him. And as I said, I would have been telling him as he's backing out to go to the left or to the right, just to make it a little bit harder for Navarrete. But great fight by Navarrete, and he surprised me. I didn't think he was that good. I know he's a 3-time world champion. The other thing I will say too is that I was really surprised by the size difference. I was talking to my old mate Ronnie Pickett about this yesterday, and the difference in size. Navarrete is, of course, coming up from 122. Valdez started at 126 now, of course, they both meet at 130. I was really surprised at how bigger Navarrete looked, and I think actually he might have come in a little bit lighter, half a pound lighter than Valdez. But that's one thing that did surprise me. But I know Valdez had the eye, but Navarrete had the hand, and yeah, I thought it was just a great performance by Navarrete to get the win. So we'll see what happens there. And I'm not sure that would be great, Carl, if that is the case. But I'm not quite sure whether that fight happens. I think Shakur Stevenson's got his sights set firmly on the lightweights. Maybe Navarrete can go up and chase a 4th title. We'll see. Navarrete would be good to fight George as well. I think that'd be a great fight too. Liam has obviously got more power than Valdez. I wouldn't say that, Carl. I just think Liam landed. Valdez didn't. He landed a few glancing blows. There was one incident in the fight I remember, and I think the commentators picked up on it. He landed a beautiful left hook, but he didn't turn it over. He almost landed with the inside of the glove, and if he had actually turned it over and landed with the knuckle part of the glove, might have been lights out for Navarrete, even though he's a tough guy. But Liam obviously landed that beautiful left hook. He's just got that sweet hook and timing. Liam has. I think Liam and Valdez very similar in that left hook, but I just think Liam's is a little bit sharper, a little bit less telegraphed. Valdez just winds it up and just lets him go. And I think that sort of makes it a little bit easier. But I wouldn't say he's got more power, Carl. I think he's just got better timing. I would have thought. Jules. Back to Isaac Hardman. Hardman has elite traits that could take him all the way to the big fights in his division. Not sure if he can win those big fights if he doesn't move his head off the line and rely on just power. That seems to be the case at the moment, Jules. I just think Isaac's a little bit confused about how to fight. We did hear him say that when he fought Rowan Murdoch, he'd been over sparring with Caleb Plant. He came back, probably thought, he was on the level now and he could outbox Rowan Murdoch and everything else. So he tried to box Rowan and it obviously didn't work out that well for him. Then he said, well, out with all that crap, now I'm back to the head splitter, I'm going to cave your head in. But that's okay to do that, but he's got to have a good mix of both. He's got to use the boxing skills to get in and get in position. Then he can use the power to execute the punches. So I just think he's a little bit confused about where he's at the moment. That'll come with more experience. What's he had, 16 fights now? But as I said earlier, Jules, in my opinion, he's got to have that head movement, body movement, bend those knees a little bit more, and I think you'll see a hell of a lot better fighter than, even better than what we're seeing now. Because I'm just not sure, if I'm being completely honest, whether Isaac has that ability now to go into those real deep waters in the middleweight division with the way he is at the moment. Now, as I said, 16 fights in, 15, 16. Give another 4 or 5 fights, maybe he will. I'm not sure, but I would just like to see him tweak a few things. And maybe get that extra set of eyes in there who can give Blair Studley a bit of a hand and offer a little bit different input to what he's getting now. Because Blair done really, really well, but he's an MMA coach as far as I know, his background. So why not bring someone in that can add to it? There's no harm or shame in it by bringing someone in that gives you a little bit, some extra advice. So if it's there, why not use it? Plenty of great boxing coaches out there. I'd put Stevie Della in his corner. To help out a little bit if I was Blair. I think he'd be a good set of eyes and ears for Isaac. Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, the shirt. Yep, the Boxing Deep Dive shirt. I don't know what I've got on there. Is that a little mark? No, it's a bit of hair there. Thanks, mate. Yep, I thought I'd better get a shirt made at some stage. All right, Steve Bateman. Shakur versus Navarrete is a very interesting fight. Would love to see that. Yeah, well, look, I'll be honest with you, Stephen. I would think straight off the top of my head, I would think Shakur, that's a real easy fight for him as far as his skill set, speed, angles, footwork, everything you could imagine. But Navarrete, as I said earlier, he's just got that ability just to be there, and he's just effective. So, and I think he would be actually a little bit bigger than Shakur as well. So, look, I would think on paper, Shakur Stevenson wins that fight in a canter, but I just can't say it after what I saw yesterday because he just has a habit. He just hangs in there, and just gets the job done, and that's all you have to do. So yeah, it would be a good fight, mate. I agree. Oh, okay. What do we got there, Carl? Jeno just announced that Tim will be announcing his next fight soon. Any idea? Josh Kelly, the Russian, Charles Conwell. My gut feel is, Carl, that'll be Brian Mendoza. I think that'll be Brian Mendoza. So call it a gut feel, a little bit of intel along the rumour mill. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Brian Mendoza, Carl. Any of those guys, yeah. I don't think, Carl, that Tim's going to want to risk his record or belt or whatever, or the prospect of those big fights just yet by fighting those guys who are all dangerous guys. I think Tim wants the most dangerous fights now. He wants to get his hands on those belts. And if Brian Mendoza has the WBC interim belt, which should happen when Jamel Charlo steps in the ring with Canelo when the WBO belt officially becomes Tim's, I think that fight makes a lot more sense to me. Mendoza versus Zhu, whatever happens with the IBF and WBA, we'll see. and then mid next year, it's either a unification fight with Tim, or, as I said last week, Terence Crawford coming up to 154 to fight Tim for whether it be WBO or WBO, WBC, or whatever it might be. Crawford loves the WBO belts. He's won them along the journey, so I've got no doubt he would see Tim's 154 belt and say that's the fight I want, because I don't think Crawford's got many big fights left. Boots Ennis, I don't think will happen. I think he wants the big fights as well. And I think Tim, look, those fights might be good once he's established and got those belts. I think he wants the biggest fights now to be the kingpin of the division. Then he'll look at those types of guys. And maybe a Liam Smith. I know he's at middleweight now. It might come down. You got Errol Spence or Terence Crawford in there. He's got a few options there. Maybe Fundora gets back on track. Here's another one. I just don't think those guys are big enough names at the moment, Carl, for Tim to risk it. You got to remember, hard for Tim to sort of get up at the moment a little bit too against some of these guys. He got up for Ocampo and Harrison because those guys were names, especially Harrison, former world champion. They were names. He wants, as they say, the smoke now. And I think those guys there, they're the type of guys who will fight when he has the belts in mandatory defenses or whatever it might be. But I just think Tim at the moment, he wants a big scalp. He wants the belts. He wants to be legitimized as the main man. And then he might look at those types of guys. Andy is in the chat. How are you, mate? Welcome to the show. I did see you the other day, mate. I watched a bit of the round table on D-Style. One of the best shows on YouTube, guys, the round table. There's a few different shows. He seems to be on there every day, D-Style, but one of the best shows you'll watch, the round table. So check that out if you haven't yet. But, welcome to you, Andy. Pound for pound. All right, what do we got there? Hang on, maybe I've missed something there. All right, we'll keep going there. Got a few comments coming through. I'll keep going through there. Yes, smash the like button, says Andy. I like that, mate. Jules, all right. Also, I think Isaac can add a lot if he adjusts his footwork. Yep, I'm with you there. Back foot always seems to be very static and planted. Your thoughts? Yeah, as I said before, Jules, if you look at his back leg, it doesn't bend. It's straight up. It's straight. It's straight. It doesn't bend or bend much. The front foot's got a little bit of give in it. But if you stand there, and no matter what level you've done any boxing before, or you just work out for a little bit of fun, stand there and just throw a big right hand or a left hand if you're a southpaw, standing straight up with your legs straight, and see what sort of power you get. And then bend your knees and get a little bit of body momentum in there. See how much more power you get. And this guy is a killer. He could cave heads in, Isaac Hardman, hence the name Head Splitter, because literally he can split your head way open and cave your head in. So I've got no doubt about it. So what he could do with a tweak on his technique, I shudder to think what sort of damage he can do and how much more he could achieve. But so if he's watching Isaac, mate, that's my suggestions to make you even better than what you are. So, but yeah, I'm with you there, mate. The back foot is planted. It doesn't, like, he plants the foot straight up and then throws the right hand, and the power, I've got no doubt, is generated purely by timing. He's got great timing. So add the power to it and the technique to it. Geez, I shudder to think what he could do. What do you got there, Carl? You're talking to Tara. Keeping an eye on things in the chat. Keep everyone honest in here. Yep. Carl again. Jeff Fennick nearly blew for Fu Valve when they announced the winner. What fight was that for, Carl? I missed something there. What fight are you talking about there? Was that for? I'm just going through. Oh, was that the Singh and Blake? No, I think he would have thought Singh won. Anyway, let me know there. Sorry, mate. I'll move on. Yeah, Carl says again, Kayahara bleeding like a stuck pig in that ring. He would have been awkward to fight because a lot of the Japanese they're such brave fighters. They always come to fight. They've got a little bit of personality, a little bit of pizzazz about them, and they're a little bit awkward and everything. But I don't think Isaac really knew what to make of it. I think he fought a really smart fight though, did Isaac. He knew that he was awkward. He knew that he was unpredictable. He was throwing punches from everywhere, and I thought Isaac fought a really smart fight. Now he could have been easily forgiven being the main event on TV against this type of guy to go out there and really try and take him out and make a statement. I thought he fought a really smart fight and broke him down gradually to get the win, which is what you got to do. I know Kayahara wasn't at the top level, but he was sort of on the outskirts. Maybe just around the outskirts. Yeah, what have we got there? Oh, okay. What have we got there? Oh, okay. The judges talking about the draw. I'm assuming in the Singh Wells fight. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I couldn't understand it there, mate. Do we need a moderator, James? Yep, she's a moderator, right? She texts me to make sure I haven't missed anything, or I've said the wrong thing, or I should shut up and move on. No, I haven't said anything political tonight, so I think we're all good. Yeah, Bluey, love the logo there, Tui, Bluey 4. Is it Bluey 4, Jay? What a win that was on the weekend. Now, I don't care whether you're an AFL fan or not, all you league heads up north. The Blue Boys are back in town. We've won 8 in a row and 5th on the ladder now, so watch out. We're coming for it all, aren't we, Bluey? Go the mighty Blue Boys. Who's next for Tim, though? As I said before, Brian Mendoza. All right. What do we got? Carl again. Michael can't return your text because he's been busy organising step-aside deals. Yeah, well, mate, I don't know. Well, on that, Carl, I'm not sure whether we discussed it before. There was talk that he got 40,000 step-aside money for the world title fight. Now, if that is the case, I'm not sure whether we mentioned it this week or last week or the week before. Why you would turn down a world title fight for $40,000? I don't get it. If it's $140,000, go for it. But for $40,000, you're going to run the risk of getting injured, getting beaten, the other fighters moving on, or something happening. Why would you run the risk for $40,000? I don't understand it. Now I know he said to Tim, "Well, at least I got some step aside money. You got shafted and got nothing." If I'm Michael Zarafa, if they're only offering me $40,000, I'm saying stick your $40,000. Give me that guaranteed world title fight, because if he wins a world title, I mean, he's earning hundreds of thousands of dollars. So for 40 grand, you're going to give that up. And we talked about it last week. The Danny Garcia Erislandy Lara fight was cancelled last week. There's been no talk, as far as I know, about when it's going to be rescheduled. So we could be here at the end of the year and Michael hasn't fought. Those guys are just getting on. He might have to wait another 6 to 12 months we could be 12 to 18 months away from Michael getting that world title shot. So why wouldn't you take the fight while it's there? Say, stick your step aside money. I'm the number one ranked challenger in the WBA and IBF. I want that fight because the IBF one's been run and won. You know, there's a new champion there now. Michael could have fought for that. He could be the world champion already. So I don't get it. If that is true, it was $40,000. That is just mind-boggling to me. Just my opinion. I'm sure he's got managers and all that into him, and that's great. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. I hope I am. I hope he gets the belt. But at the end of the day, stepping aside for that amount of money, I don't understand it. But anyway, this is my opinion. Carl says again, hang on, have I missed something there? No limit. Oh, the Matchroom card of heavyweight. Sorry, the poor card. Yeah. Well, where was that? Let me. I didn't watch the whole thing, to be honest, Carl. I only watched the Joshua fight and the Dempsey McKean fight. I didn't see Chisora. What did he beat? Was it Gerald Washington? I think it was. I didn't watch those fights, mate. There's no way I was getting up that early. And Derek Chisora doesn't mean enough to me to watch it on YouTube on a day that I should be working. So, I only watched Dempsey McKean and Joshua. What do we think of Joshua, by the way? Let me know. We'll get to that. Andy says, we haven't had any terrible trolls here yet, though, have we? I see them elsewhere all the time, sadly. No, well, touch wood there, Andy. We haven't had any trolls. I'm sure they're out there watching. But no, we haven't actually had anyone that's got on here and had a bit to say. Look, whatever. It's a public YouTube channel. They can say what they want. That's what all you guys are out there to police the comments and have my back and each other's back. But hopefully we don't get any. But it is what it is. What do we got there? And James says the same thing. Haven't noticed any, probably because I don't swear too much. Yeah, we don't actually get too much on here, do we? Yes, Tara, you are the worst culprit out of anyone when it comes to swearing. All right. Chloe, you have asked a couple of times who's next for Tim. I think I've answered that question. Thanks for recommending the channel. Yeah, no worries. The Pound for Pound King. I'm not sure whether you've been here a few times. Have you? The King will call you. But, definitely check out D-Style, mate. It's a great channel. Eric and who are the few? He has different people on there every week, but they're really, really knowledgeable guys. They know their boxing. And a bit like this, you can comment on there, and I think they even get people on there, but a really good channel, Pound for Pound King, so check it out. Carl says, the Bluey, Jenna said they're announcing it soon. Well, I think they got it, because I've got a feeling he's going to fight in October. So what is that, a couple of months away? So you would think they'd want, maybe within the next sort of week or two, I would think they'd probably want a 6-week lead into that fight. There has been rumours that could be Melbourne. Obviously, Sydney are throwing there, maybe the Gold Coast, but I've heard that Melbourne's a strong chance as well, which would be awesome for the fight fans down here. Let's just hope Dan Andrews doesn't do something to cancel the event like he did with the Commonwealth Games. We didn't get the Matildas here. That's up in Sydney because of our old mate Dan Andrews. I did say I wasn't going to get political, but Dan Andrews, come on. We don't deserve it down here at the moment with this peanut in charge. Hope it's here, Tim Zoo. But yeah, Dan Andrews will find a way to stuff it up. Anyway, we'll see. Lynden, have you caught up on the UE Dib fight? No, I haven't. Sorry, mate. No, to be frank, mate, I haven't. There's been a few other things going on, so I apologise. I haven't caught up with that one, but I will. You are 100% right there, Carl. Lynden is the man of Aussie boxing. Yeah, well, that's what I told myself anyway, with my 750 subscribers. But we're growing. And I appreciate every single one of you guys out there. It's quality over quantity. Andy, what else we got? Could be Tim versus Bud if Spence doesn't sign a rematch, or maybe Tim versus Virgil Ortiz if ordered. Would Ortiz move up? Andy, I'm not sure. He's at welterweight, isn't he? Unless he's moved up. I think Bud versus Crawford is definitely going to happen. Too much money involved, mate, so that's going to happen. The only way it doesn't if Spence, for some reason, decides he doesn't want the rematch, I think it happens at the end of this year, so it means Tim will have to wait. But I think it works out really well. You've got Crawford and Spence at the end of the year or early next year. You've got Tim against, whether it be Mendoza or whoever it might be. You'll have a fight by the end of the year. So it makes sense that maybe mid next year, Tim, if he wins, I'm sure he will, fights the winner of Spence and Crawford. That would be a magnificent fight. Although, having said that, if Spence does happen to get up, then we see a trilogy, throws a bit of a spanner in the works. I think Crawford does it just as easy next time. So I would hope by May, June, July next year, we've got Tim versus Bud Crawford. How big would that be? Wow, be awesome. Yep, Bluey, I'm with you, mate. Expecting Mendoza. Yep. Yimmy. Okay, Yimmy, is this your first time here? If it is, mate, welcome to the show. Carl, I can just wait to see your reaction to this one. Is Ebony Bridges a national treasure in Australia? Carl, I'm sure you've commented there somewhere. Did you see with Conor McGregor promoting his new drink? I did see her there with him, Yimmy. I didn't see the drink though. She was basically a ring card promotional girl, a nice side hustle. Oh, Yimmy, don't get me started on Ebony Bridges. I'm sure Carl, as I said, will have plenty to say in there. What I will say is, I wonder what Conor McGregor's wife thought of him at ringside with Ebony Bridges. I have been seen together a couple of times with, if you can call it a top, with sort of a top. It was a bit of a shredded bit of material on over. I'm not quite sure Tara would like to see me at ringside with my arm around a young, enthusiastic, ambitious young blonde like Ebony Bridges. To answer your question though, Yimmy, no, she's not a national treasure here in Australia. I wouldn't have thought. She's not. Are you? I'm assuming you're English. I know she's a bit of a national treasure over there. She's a lot bigger name in the UK than what she is here, Yimmy, if I've got to say that. Different type of fight fans, I suppose. But yeah, she's not a national treasure here. Quite sort of the opposite. Yimmy, I'm sure Carl and Big J, I'm sure you guys will be all over it. We'll get to that as we go. All right, Carl, speaking of Carl, he says, I don't think he'll go down the WBC road after getting crowned the full WBO champ. No, I'm with you, Carl. I think he goes down he is going down the WBO path. The only thing, I think we might have discussed this last week, the only way the WBC gets brought into it is if Mendoza is elevated to the full champion like Tim is with the WBO, and we get a unification fight at the end of the year. You got to remember also that Mendoza, he wants the belts as well, and whoever else fights for the IBF and WBA ones. These guys want to fight each other. Some big money involved. So I think Mendoza would want that fight as well. So I think it just makes sense that they both win. they both get elevated to full champion, and in October or whatever it might be, mid to late October, we might have a unification fight between the two. Sort of unification fight, isn't it? You've got the two elevated champions fighting each other to become the full WBC, WBO champion. I think that would be great. But I'm with you, mate. If it was just purely picking a path, he's already chosen WBO, but we'll see what happens with the WBC part of it. Dan, how are you, mate? That non-call knockdown with Powers was disgraceful and another example of poor reffing in this country. Yeah, they can't take a trick, can they, the refs? And what about Singh losing his mouthpiece 4 times without a warning? Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. As dominant as he was in the fight, you can't just keep spitting out your mouth guard. Now, I think the one thing or the difference with this one, Dan, maybe why he wasn't warned or had a point taken off, I don't know, was the fact that he was on top. Normally when fighters are spitting out the mouthpieces, they're on the receiving end. They're spitting it out to get a rest or recover or whatever it might be. It shouldn't matter, of course. You spit the mouth guard out. After the second time, it should be right. You spit that out once more, and I'm going to take a point. And without hesitation, the third time, take 1 point. Spits it out a fourth time, take another point. Now, looking at those scores, I don't think it would have made a lot of difference because it would have been, Blake Wells would have won it on one card, but it would have been 77-73 times 2. 78-73 on the other two cards. But either way, I'm with you, mate. Should have had a point, if not 2 points taken off for that. You just can't do that. You can't do it. And I said we talked about Navarrete and Wilson earlier in the show. And again, I'll say, when Navarrete spit his mouth guard out, he got 27 seconds. So I can quite understand why Liam Wilson and Benny Harrington and all the Australian fight fans are still pissed about it. But in my opinion, in that situation, if you spit the mouth guard out during the round, tough. Keep fighting. That's just part and parcel of what happens. The fight's in play. You spit your mouth guard out. Well, that's your problem. Put it back in after the round ends. That's the only way to combat it and stop these guys from spitting out their mouthpieces to get a rest or more time to recover. Especially in the Navarrete situation there. He's been rocked. He's looking for any way to get some more time to recover. You spit the mouth guard out, mate. It's too bad. Keep fighting. You're at a disadvantage for the next minute or minute and a half, whatever it might be. That's just the way I think it should be anyway. No break, no wash the mouth guard. Because what you got to remember as well is they go back to the corner, especially the corner. Oh, geez, where's the water bottle? I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Oh, geez, I better give it a rinse and I'm fumbling it. Oh, yep, we'll get it in and then we'll send you back out. And in that time, 5, 6, 7 more seconds have passed. So the only way to combat that there, Dan, is to say box on. Well, don't even say box on. Just keep boxing and stiff. Get it at the end of the round. At the end of the round, the ref picks it up, then takes it back to the corner. They can wash it and do whatever they want with, and then we come out for the next round. What do you guys think? Bluey. God, I love that logo there, Bluey. Mendoza, interim champ, would be his second belt. Makes sense. Yep, I agree with you, mate. 100%. Shane, how are you, Shane? Kuso leaving No Limit. Yeah, well, we haven't discussed that either. No, not privy to any inside gossip, but strange decision and perhaps regrettable. Now, Shane, my opinion on that, I quickly touched on it on the weekly roundup that I did on Friday, because it only, I think, come out the night before. That might have been that day. Strange decision. Now, from what I've gathered and doing a little bit of digging, from what I've heard, he wasn't comfortable with the amount of attention that he was getting, the amount of exposure that he was getting, which I find unfathomable. I really do. I just cannot get my head around how we would think that. Now, that is a classic case, if you ask me, and again, I don't know the full story, but on the surface, that looks like an ego that needs a bit of checking, if you ask me. He'd been on 3 or 4 pay-per-views. He just headlined his first TV card, and you're not getting enough exposure and enough attention. Mate, what do you want? You're with the number, and you're getting that exposure by the number one promotional outfit in this country. They have all the TV stitched up, all the pay-per-view stitched up, and you're going to try and roll the dice with someone either from overseas, or there was talk maybe he's going to be with Stan Sport. What's that going to get you? Stan Sport. I don't understand it. Now, if it was him saying, well, I see that Tasman Fighters have now got DAZN, they might look after me a little bit better. I'm going to be a very big fish in their pond. Well, actually, I won't say that. He wouldn't be the biggest fish because, of course, you got Justice Honey and the biggest fish of all, probably Jaya Pattaya. So, not so, but maybe him being Pacific Island in the background fits in with the Tasman Fighters stable with Jai and Justice. That makes sense. The Zone, you're still on streaming. That has some merit to it. I've got no drama. But to say, well, I've got nothing lined up, but I'm going to walk away from the biggest promotional firm in Australia and roll the dice and see what happens. I've got a few things in the fire. Maybe I'll go with Stan Sport. Maybe I'll go overseas. Mate, I wouldn't be doing any of that until I had everything 100% signed, sealed, and delivered of what's going to happen. Now, maybe he does. Maybe he does. Maybe there's something going on behind closed doors. He's got something lined up with Top Rank or Matchroom. Who knows? But on the surface, to walk away from No Limit just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't, except, as I said, if it was someone like Tasman Fighters who have got the Zone, who knows? But yeah, really strange decision, Shane. And if he's just purely walked away because he's not getting enough attention or exposure, mate, you need a check. You need to get your ego checked, if you ask me. I could probably put another line through getting some access to one of his fights now, can't I? But it is what it is. Yimmy, can you do me a favour? If you ever come across one of your countrymen called Mirage, can you run him over? Well, I don't understand that one, Yimmy, but we'll move on from that one. The pound for pound king says he's a sloppy fighter, but gets it done with his awkward style. Now that's, I'm assuming, is that Navarrete? Could be Navarrete or Singh, either one, but I'm with you, mate, 100%. Carl says, Shane, good call, definitely a weird one. He said something like he wasn't getting the attention he should. Yep, sounds like a bit of a Karen. Yeah, well, if that's the case, Carl, it is the case, isn't it? I mean, sorry, if that is the case, then surely he's got to have someone say, Paula, what are you thinking? You've just headlined your first card. You've been on pay-per-views. Exposure, what do you mean? How come you're not getting exposure? You've gone through the ranks, and that should be the way it's done. Undercards of the big pay-per-view fights. Then you step out and you fight on the, what's it called, No Limit on Fox. Isaac Harbur's doing the same thing. I don't get it. But as I said before, maybe I don't know the whole story, but that's what it looks like from the surface. Carl says how Navarrete launches into his combination is weird. He's awkward. Well, he doesn't plant his feet, Carl. It's almost like he's sort of walking towards and punching at the same time, doesn't he? He doesn't really plant his feet and let him go. And he's had a lot of knockouts, but yeah, I think he just wears them down. He has a lot of late round stoppages, or knockouts, which makes a lot of sense because he just keeps it up like a lot of Mexican fighters do. From the first bell to the last bell, they keep the same pace. It's just for the whole fight. And I've said this a few times, there's no gears. They don't go from 1 to 4, back to 3 to 5 to 2, like a lot of fighters do. They go through the gears from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and they finish the fight stronger than what they started. They go through the gears, and that's what he does, and he just wears them down. He just doesn't do anything well at all. He looks so unco in there, doesn't he? But he just gets it done. So good luck to him. Good on him. Big J, I knew this had come up. Unrelated topic, how good are the Matildas? Go Girls. Yeah, it was great, mate. I must admit, I hadn't watched any of it until Saturday night when they played, was it France? And I wasn't quite sure with the, because I watched the football and the other channel, I kept going back and forth, and they played 120 minutes. That's a long time for a game of soccer. Just, I know, is it 60-minute halves? That's a long time they're playing. And then to get in they have 20 shots. No, I wasn't quite sure with the whole how it all works, but when she nailed that shot, that was awesome. So good luck to the girls. Tough task on Wednesday, I think it is, against the Poms. Hopefully they can get it done, and we'll see what happens after that. I will say though, no, let's not talk public holidays and all that just yet. Let's wait till they win, and then we can look at that. As a small business owner, I don't really like it because public holiday rates go up 250%. For that day, so sometimes it's just worth just closing the doors. One thing I will say, Big J, as good as the girls have been, and it's great for women's sport, soccer, all that in general. I don't like, and not just for these, I don't like when people come out and say if they win, it'll be the greatest sporting achievement of all time. I don't like it, and I think that's a bit of an insult to all the great achievements of the past, and not just because they're women or whatever. I just think we just take it for what it is. Okay, we've got so many great sporting achievements in this country. Do we really have to say this is number one or whatever? Just let everyone enjoy it. We've had so many. I think it would be impossible to have a number one, or a number one in general over the hundreds of years, decades, whatever it has been. So off topic there. Great for the Matildas, but let's just hold fire until they win and just enjoy it for what it is. Back to the boxing. Yimi Navarrete's now a 3-division world champion. Yep, 12-0 world title fights. I think 10 knockouts. I think 2 Yimi. He's got a few good wins in Valdez, Dog Bay, etc. He's one of the best fighters in the sport. Very underrated, Yimi, and I must admit I was one of them. Even though he was a 3-time world champion, I didn't think he was in the bracket of those great 3-division world champions. I've changed my mind. That was a really dominant performance over a great fighter in himself in Oscar Valdez. So great performance, Yimi, and deserves to be talked about a little bit higher. Pound for pound, maybe? Who knows? What's this about Mirage? Hasn't been here before, thankfully. Yeah, all right. Well, haven't seen him before, but by the sounds of things, we probably don't want him. Jules, Matilda's unreal. Big J. Yep, going to need a deep dive Matilda special if they win the thing. I wish I knew anything about soccer, Jules, or football, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know enough, mate. I just know it's great for Australian sport, for women's sport. And isn't it amazing that everyone's suddenly become a soccer expert? The one thing I will say with it, though, as great as it has been, the challenge comes now. I don't want to spend the next half an hour talking about soccer, but the challenge now is translating that into an ongoing interest in not just women's soccer, but soccer in general, because we're all soccer hooligans at the moment. We've got our Matildas scarves on, and we're all ranting and raving in front of the TV and cheering. But what happens when it's all over, even if they win? Because the day after, we're all back to being league fans or AFL fans or cricket fans, whatever it might be. So that's the challenge of them. So whether they need a base here in Australia for the men's as well. If they want to grow the sport, because apart from that once every 4 year situation, no one really gives a toss about soccer, unfortunately. But it is what it is. All right, back to the boxing again. Shane says, with no limit working with Showtime. Not sure what Akuso was thinking. Should have changed management to Glenn Jennings and stayed no limit. Hey, mate, great point. 100%, mate. I don't know who is his manager. I know Lincoln Hudson's his trainer. Who's his actual manager? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Shane, but I know we're all just guessing. But why would you leave the number one promotional firm in the country? It doesn't make sense. But anyway, we'll see. Going through, Ronnie Picken. Hi, mate. And what we'll say too while we're going with Ronnie, it was really good to catch up yesterday. We were at the past and present Boxers Association lunch in Melbourne. It was a really good day to go to. I will admit, though, I didn't really know a lot of the boxers because they were all in the 70s and 80s. Sort of knew a few of them, but not a lot. But it was great for Ronnie. Invited me down, and it was great to meet a few of the guys and catch up with them. We should be more of it and more effort being made to keep these guys in the mix. I don't know how to do it, of course, but maybe maybe some funding or something for them to help out those guys that need a little bit of help. Because some of them are struggling in their old age, and it'd be good to sort of have some sort of fund set up. But we'll see. Anyway, Ronnie says, I just thought Valdez should have shortened his punches, especially the left hook. Those wild load-up punches were too easy to read. Well, mate, I'm with you 100%, Ronnie. You could see that left hook coming a mile away, and that's what I said before about Liam Picken. Good Western Bulldogs player, by the way. Liam Wilson. Liam times it beautifully. He just whips it in, and you don't even see it coming. Valdez crouched down and just throws it from the floor, and you can see it coming, and it just made it so easy for Navarrete to see. And he was open for the left hook, but I'm with you there, mate. He should have not telegraphed it as much and shortened it a little bit. And as much plaudits as Eddie Renaso gets being a great trainer, I don't know. My gut feel with Eddie Renaso is he's not the only one, but Canelo makes the trainer, not the other way around. Canelo has made him a destination trainer. I haven't seen a lot from Renaso outside Canelo to show me he's a great trainer. A bit like, a lot of other trainers out there in the past, you get a really great dominant fighter. It attracts everyone to that trainer and that gym. And then sort of the novelty wears off and they realise, maybe it's the fighter, not the trainer sort of thing. But anyway, that's a different subject. Yes, Andy, it is a great shirt. Thanks, mate. Glenn, hi, mate. Valdez, no variation. Navarrete was very good. Yeah, mate, I'm with you. Yeah, I agree with you. He didn't change things up at all, as I said earlier. Went out, backed up in a straight line. Didn't go to the left or to the right. Just backed up. and made it a lot easier for for Navarrete, who didn't really vary his plan too much because he didn't have to. Oscar Valdez just did the same thing over and over as again, and that's for me the definition of when a great trainer comes in. They have something that makes the fighter find something. You know, you look back to fights. Well, I mean, there's so many of the parts, but one thing that really, one of the fights that really comes to mind is, you remember when Diego Corrales against Castillo, when he found something. There was a few variations there. I mean, who knows? Maybe that was the guts from Castillo, but something that's a definition of a. I'll just get my camera going back again there. The definition of a good trainer can find something mid-fight, change tactics to bring the fighter out of it and give him something else. We saw. We've had the rope-a-dope, Sugar Ray Leonard against Tommy Hearn. So many different examples over the years, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is that whether it be the fighter or trainer, to be able to change something mid-fight to your benefit, to find those great fighters and trainers. I just don't think Valdez or Reynoso had anything to change the course of the fight. It was just the same the whole way through. I mean, Valdez had his moments, but nowhere near enough to make it a close fight. Big J. I'll be covering it on T Street. It's another one to check out. Uncut, they win, also go and destroy the Megan Rapinoe, whatever his name is. Yeah, that Rapinoe. Yeah, don't get me started on... can I call it her or is it it? Can I say... I can't call it she, can I? It's a they, them. I'm going to call it a she. Her. She doesn't do much for me at all, does it, Rapinoe? And it was pretty comical in her last fight. She put it over the bar. So anyway, we're not talking soccer, we're talking boxing. Get myself in trouble there. Andy, I thought Valdez might have had a chance of catching Navarrete in between shots, and based off the Liam Wilson fight, had a stoppage chance. Maybe Nav just took Wilson lightly. Oh, I think he did. Wilson fought a great fight, but I think, like what happens in a lot of these instances where a replacement comes in, they just overlook him. Liam Wilson almost had the belt, but he overlooked him. Styles make fights again, as they say, but I just think Valdez just fought like right into Navarrete's hands, made it an easy fight for him, to be honest. And as I said before, that's something that really surprised me. He didn't change anything up to change the course of the fight. Here we go. We've got one from Big J in regards to Ebony. He says the Yimmy. I've put it up now, so I've got to say it. Ebony Bridges is a skank OnlyFans stripper that nobody likes. Boxing will be better once she's gone. Yeah, geez, I should have read that before I put it up on the screen. But mate, it's a talk show, so good on you. Jules says we need a top 10 pound for pound boxing channels on YouTube and top 10 pound for pound commentators in the chat. Yeah, well, mate, I'm up for anything. Glenn says good point about the rear leg. First thing I look at when I watch a boxer, Crawford's rear leg positioning was amazing against Spence. Yeah, it was. And if you look at those really good punches, especially taller guys like Isaac, they bend the knee and they twist the hip and the back foot at that right moment, and it creates even more power, and they turn that fist over and it can do all sorts of damage. And the fact that Isaac's doing as much damage with, I think, a flawed technique, geez, yeah, he could be anything. Want to go back to that comment. So we need a top 10 pound for pound boxing channel on YouTube and top 10 pound for pound commentators. Just elaborate on that a little bit more, mate. I'd like to. Is it a channel just discussing the pound for pound out there? Let me know. The pound for pound king says I thought he would have landed a lot more because Navarrete throws big wide shots. Well, he gives you the chance, doesn't he, mate? He gives you an opportunity to beat him. Technique not great, defense not great. Telegraphs his punches. He's not fast. He just sort of clubs the punches in, but he has that ability just to wear guys down. So, I'm with you there, mate. Bluey says, what do we got there, mate? Hang on, I'll bring that up again there. How good do you think Tim is? I think he's a show against Crawford. Yeah, look, I think Tim is 100% at the level, Bluey. He's 100% a legitimate top A-grade fighter. It's as simple as that. Now, has he fought the A-grade level yet? Yeah, a couple of instances, but not quite yet. Doesn't mean he's not an A-grade fighter. He wanted to fight Charlo, of course. He wants Crawford. He wants Spence. He wants Canelo. He wants them all. So I think he's got more than enough ability to be the top dog at 154. Whether it's enough to beat Crawford, we'll see. I mean, Crawford just looked almost unbeatable against Spence, but styles make fights. I think Tim Tszyu, I think would fare a lot better than what Errol Spence did. Put it that way. I think he'd be a real good shot against Crawford. And you got to remember, Tim is a really good, solid 154. Crawford's coming out of his comfort zone. I think he's more of a 140 to 145 sort of pound fighter. I know he fights at 147. So Tim would have the size and weight and strength advantage. But Crawford's just 1 in a million. So it would be a great fight, mate. I would love to say it. And yes, go Blues. All right. Yeah, Glenn, I'm glad I didn't see it. I've heard a lot of comments about it. Washington just thought it was terrible. We won't spend much time talking about that one. All right. This is Mutsy. How are you, Mutsy? Welcome to the show. Wilder will cave Joshua. Yeah, well, my opinion with that, Mutsy, is that if it looks like they're going to fight in January, that Joshua completely outboxes Wilder until the second Wilder lands the first big punch, and I think it's good night. It's an intriguing fight because, Wilder's got to land the big punch for starters, and let's face it, all he's got is one thing. It's one big right hand. Hellenius was terrible too, Mutsy. I don't think you can sort of take too much out of that. I thought Joshua, geez, he looked wooden, didn't he? Looked like a statue. He just really, really stiff, really upright. It's tough because Hellenius didn't really come to fight. Just a horrendous level fighter he is. I don't know how he's landed these big fights because he was horrendous. And at no stage did he try and win the fight. And I hate when fighters come into these big fights and they don't try and win. He was in survival mode. He was there for the payday. And I don't care whether it was 1 week's notice. He'd fought a week before that in a 3-round sparring session, so he was right to go. Mate, come out and try and win the fight. You never know. You got knocked out anyway. Come and try and win the fight. To be in survival mode right from the word go, almost waiting to be hit with that big shot at the end, I just don't get it. But yeah, it was a horrendous fight. But I'm with you there, Mutsy. I think whether Wilder can land it is another thing. Maybe Joshua boxes nice and smart and tight for the whole 12 rounds. Who knows? But I think Joshua wins every round until the boom comes, and I think Joshua might be in a bit of trouble. Big J says, never seen a fighter waste his prime like Zarafa. So disappointing. Yeah, mate, I can't argue with that. So much talent, but he fights so sparingly. He just doesn't fight enough. And he's 30 now, I think. The last probably, 4 years? I know we had COVID in there. He had like 4 fights in 4 years or something. Just not enough. And the way things are looking now, he might not fight for the rest of the year. Depends on obviously what happens with Lara and Garcia. Whether they fight towards the end of the year and whether he's on that card. So does he fight again? I don't know. I hope he does. But 4 fights in 4 years, and one of those fights was a 1-minute demolition of Anthony Mundine. The other one was a guy that had no right to be in the ring with him, a Fijian, who lasted 2 or 3 rounds. Hardman lasted 2 rounds, and that Creative was no benefit whatsoever. So really, Zarafa hasn't had a worthwhile fight in 4 years since he fought Jeff Horn the second time round. Hardman was a credible opponent, but got the knockout, and credit to Michael for getting it, but didn't get the rounds in, fought, a round and a half, whatever it was. Outside that, the other 3 guys were not even worthy. Even Anthony Mundine should have retired 3 or 4 years before that. So he really hasn't had a big fight. And I'm with you, Big J. 4 fights in 4 years, 3 of them totally irrelevant, and he might be not in there for the rest of the year. I don't understand it. I know he's got new management and all that, and he's had a lot of new managers over the journey. But whoever's in his ear now, they should be saying, hey, mate, and as I said earlier, take the world title fight, Michael. Take it. He'd be world champion by now. Anyway, and he'd be planning his first defence. Just doesn't make sense to me. Carl says, I think Andy Ruiz destroyed AJ's career and he's gone. I agree with you, mate. Destroyed the confidence, and Anthony Joshua looks like one of those fighters that he's a confidence fighter. And I think the fact that Ruiz did what he did to him, yes, he won the rematch, but it certainly wasn't convincing. I think Ruiz definitely helped by not turning up in shape. I'm not sure whether he can come back, Carl. Maybe he needs a big fight to bring him back, but just he just looked horrible against Usyk. He looked horrible against Hellenius. So I don't know. Let's hope he comes back and we see a semblance of the old AJ. Glenn agrees. Joshua totally done. Doesn't know what sort of boxer he wants to be. Wilder murders him. Yeah, I think I'm with you there, Glenn. He doesn't know whether he wants to box or punch. So we'll see. What else have we got there? Okay, what's that? New question for Tim in last comment. Sorry, I didn't see that, mate. Enlighten me there. The boxing, Carl, Lynden, Andy, and myself have been dropping links to the channel everywhere on these YouTube streams. Hey, mate, I really appreciate that. Very, very much appreciated, because it doesn't matter how good your show is, if you haven't got people out there doing that, then you don't grow. So, so I'd like to think we have some quality content on here, Carl. So you and everyone else that's out there sharing the content and the channel and everything else, mate, very, very much appreciated. At the end of the day, we're all boxing fans, and the more we have, the better it is. So thanks very much for that, mate. Pound for pound, been here 2 or 3 times, watched Cambosis read the score. What do you think, mate? Who do you think won? What was your score? Johnny Durag, hi, mate. Welcome to the show. What up? I thought AJ fought timid. Yep. Even his jab, in my opinion, looks forced. For most of the fight, I thought AJ's right hand was literally glued to his head. You hardly ever see combination punching from AJ. Yeah, it wasn't a great fight, was it? It was a shocking fight. And I mean, it doesn't make it easy when Helenius didn't want to fight, but yeah, I thought AJ would have put the pressure on and got him out of there. But anyway, Ortiz Tim would be fireworks. Certainly would, mate. What's that, Andy? Ortiz had health problems making weight at welterweight, pulled out of Staniota's fight. That's right, he did too. Thanks, mate. He's pulled out a couple of times. He's got to go up or hang him up, apparently. Yeah, well, geez, if that's the case, what a fight for Tim that'd be. I'd still like to see that fight when Tim's got a belt or a couple of belts. Andy, I think that would make it even bigger. As I said, I still don't think Tim needs to risk it against any of these guys until he has the full belt under his belt, if that makes sense. I know he's going to be elevated, but I want to see him legitimize it by beating a Mendoza or one of these guys and then fighting the Ortizes of the world. Johnny says, Connor, when he was at featherweight before the Floyd fight, was a monster. Shame it come to an end so fast. Yeah, he was, mate, he was. Found it interesting is that ringside pretty much shadow boxing right through the fight, which was interesting. He sort of had one hand on Ebony and the other hand sort of punching in, punching the air. So he was a monster back then. It's just, I think the weight sort of got to him there. Although, what's featherweight in the UFC, Johnny? I know they have different weight classes to us, even though they have the same names. Featherweight's 126 in boxing. What is it in UFC? James says Ortiz definitely a major 154 player. There's nothing wrong with his health. Yeah, I agree. I'll keep going through the comments here. Talking amongst yourself there. I'm going to get to the pound for pound top 10s in a minute. Yeah, Andy, about my comments about the mouth guard. Yep, ref should warn them, let them fight on and hand to the corner in the break. Yep, exactly right, mate. Johnny says Australian people I met on here are legendary. Mirage is okay also. Well, I'll have to look up this Mirage. Who is he? And Johnny, where are you from, mate? Are you a Pom or you're a Yank? Carl says the dude Akuso is a prospect. Yes, well he is. Yeah, he's a prospect. That's all at this stage. What's he had? 5 fights. And has a company kangaroo. Like people get company cars, we get company kangaroos here. All right, so let's get into. There's a few comments. I'll let you guys talk amongst yourself there. We've got a few coming in there. Hang on. Well, Larry says Liam Wilson deserves his rematch. Navarrete versus Valdez showed how underrated Liam is. Yeah, I'm not disputing that, Larry. I think he deserves a rematch. But at the end of the day, it's not about whether they deserve anything. It's whether it makes sense to the fighter. And Navarrete, I don't think Liam Wilson would be in his thoughts at all at this stage. I think he would say, okay, well, I underestimated him. I got a reality check. I got knocked down. I was lucky to win. Maybe shouldn't have won, as we've all argued. But at the end of the day, he would say, okay, I got out of jail. I'm going to move on. So let's hope Liam Wilson can get the rematch. I hope he does. But I think he's going to have to get another 1 or 2 good scalps under his belt before Navarrete would give him a rematch. Because the fans, apart from Australians, they're not asking for it. I think most fans outside of Australia see it the same way as he got out of jail. It's only us here in Australia that are demanding the rematch, and I hope he gets it, but we'll see. James, another side of the coin. Bugger the Matildas and Australian soccer in general. Okay, yep, well, it's your opinion. James says Wilson stock rises after Navarrete's fight. Yes, so yeah, no, I think so. I think it does. Larry says, let's all be honest here. Liam beat Navarrete, but once again, corruption gave Navarrete an extra 9 seconds to recover, which proved to be crucial. Yeah, no, definitely proved to be crucial, Larry. Yeah, unfortunately, Liam was the B side, and unfortunately, Liam, the B side, you're always up against it, aren't you? This is a really good point here. Dan, what about Navarrete's skin? He copped a lot of punches and some headbutts and not a mark on him. Yeah, I was thinking that the same thing, Dan. Then you look at Valdez, who was completely busted up. Yeah, I'm with you there. Keep going through the comments here. Navarrete reminds me of William Zapata. Yeah, good point there, Larry. Very high punch output, but he's way more unorthodox and throws from a lot of weird angles, I would say. Navarrete also has underrated defence as well. Well, yeah, you're right on all counts there, Larry. I think he has very underestimated defence because he does wear a few. He doesn't look like he has good anything. As I said before, footwork, defence, technique, it's all looks shocking, but he's a winner. He's had one loss in, 39 fights, whatever it is. So, and it must be underrated because, yeah, he barely ever gets tagged. And he says, don't follow soccer, but I'm behind our Matildas. Bugger you buggers that don't. Yep. Carl says, Tim can get a bit of payback for Jeff Horn getting beaten. Yeah, that was against Crawford. Larry says, I was never really that big on Navarrete, but he really convinced me that he's for sure a pound-for-pound top 10 fighter. Better resume than Tank and Shakur. Yeah, not going to argue with that, Larry. I'm with you. I didn't really rate Navarrete that highly, even though he's a three-time world champion, but I'm a believer now. I'm convinced. And definitely could make a case for being top 10 pound-for-pound. Larry, all right, you agree with me there? What do you got there? Completely agree. Full survival mode. Hellenius didn't throw any right hand at all. It seemed like he was scared of a repeat of the Wilder fight. Embarrassing card overall. Yeah, well, at least it was free. Larry also says, thought Hrgovic and McKean was a good technical fight, although it was boring for most casuals. I see a lot of good things in it. Hrgovic. Wouldn't be surprised if he beat Usyk. I can't see that, Larry, but maybe he deserves a shot. It reminded me a lot of an amateur fight, to be honest, Larry. Not any detriment to either fighter, but just that long-range, technical, sort of that arm fencing type of fight, I thought. That's sort of what it reminded me of, and it got a little bit more, combatish, I suppose, if that's the word, later on in the fight. But early on, definitely very much like an elite amateur fight. What do we got there? Lynden, Nikita Zub, Jack Brubaker. Can he beat Jack inside 4? Yes, I think he can, Carl. I think he can definitely beat him inside 4. All right, I'm going to let you guys talk amongst yourselves there. There's a bit going on between all you guys out there. Right, what we're going to do, actually, I'll just smash that like button, Andy says. I just want to quickly go. We've got about sort of 10 minutes to go. What I want to do is go through my updated top 10. Now, I made note earlier of the main event shit show that they put up with the top 10 earlier last week, but I'm going to put my neck on the line now, put my top 10. I did put it on Instagram, but a lot of you guys don't follow me. So I'm going to put up the Australian top 10 for the males. Okay, and tell me what you think. We might discuss it a little bit more next week. I've got Jaya Pataya at number 1. I've got George Kambosos number 2. Now, in my opinion, you could have them either way. Whether you got Jaya at 1 or Tim at 1, I think the consensus is that Jaya Pataya and Tim Tszyu are 1 and 2 on the pound-for-pound Australian table. Let me know what you think. Same as number 3 and number 4. I've got George Kambosos at 3, Jason Maloney at number 4, but same thing. I think you could have them either way. So I think the top 4 are very, very hard to separate, but I've got Jai and Tim split. You could have either way at 1 and 2, and George and Jason at 3 and 4. I think that's undisputed, those top 4. However you have it, is up to you. I've got Andrew Maloney at number 5 because I know he lost his last fight, but he's proven at the level, and no one's done enough to take that mantle off him at any stage. I know you've got Liam Wilson, Sam Goodman, these types of guys, Stevie Spark at world level, but none of them have got the credentials, I think, at world level to take number 5 of Andrew Maloney. Number 6, I toot and fro a little bit. I've got Liam Paro there, but he's been pretty inactive, Liam Paro. He's had the Prograis fight fall over. I've still got him in there at number 6, but just. I've got number 7, Sam Goodman, right behind him. We've got Michael Zarafa at number 9. As I said earlier, not active enough for me. No big wins at world level yet to change my mind there. And then I've got Stevie Spark to round out the number 10. So tell me what you think there. Larry, what do you got there, mate? Really difficult to pick between 1 and 2. Yeah, as I said, Tim Tszyu for me, the best fighter in Australia. Yeah, and Jai's been inactive, Larry. So, look, I'm not going to argue with anyone that has Tim number 1. George number 1, I wouldn't argue with either, if I'm being honest about the whole thing. that top 4 for me is set. Probably more so the top 3. Jason, great win in his last fight, but yeah, for me, as I said, Jai number 1, Tim number 2, however order you want them, and George number 3, Jason number 4, but I wouldn't argue if that reversed as well. Carl, what's Paro doing? I have no idea. Double Achilles injuries must take an age. Yeah, an age to heal. I would think that's the case, mate. Good on you, mate. Just ordered my Jason Maloney shirt off his website. Yeah, check out his website. Limited edition world title fights. I'm going to get one myself. So check that out as well. And before I forget, guys, if you're in Melbourne or even in a state, the Australian Boxing Hall of Fame inductions are September the 2nd. Jason Maloney is the fighter of the year. He'll be there. I think Victor Chinian's being honoured or inducted. Daniel Gill's being inducted. Skinny Hussein's being inducted. Keith Ellis is being inducted. So it's a really, really good night. If you're in Victoria or Melbourne and you're a boxing fan, it's a great night. It's $240. So I might even put the link later on in the description there. So if you're in Melbourne, check it out. It's a great, great night. Jeff Phoenix always there. Barry Michael, Lester Ellis, some great fighters there. I'm there. Tassie Brown's there. You can meet Tassie. So no, it's really good to get there. I remember Robbie Peden was there. Jai Patai was there last year. Anyway, the list goes on. But if you're in Melbourne, check it out. It's a really, really good night. But good on you for getting the shirt. So what do you guys think there? The bottom probably the bottom 5 where you could probably argue amongst yourselves who they are. But for me, Stevie Spark just gets in there at number 10. What's yours there, Larry? Tim Zhu 1, Jai Patai 2, 3 Jason Maloney, 4 Cambosis, 5 Sam Goodman. I'm not sure how you can have him above Andrew Maloney though, Larry. Anyway, that's your decision. Pound for pound king. Why are they doing the Hall of Fame in Melbourne? Because that's just where the people that organise it are, mate. And Melbourne's the home of sport in this country, mate. But yeah, Damien Membry does a great job. He's based in Melbourne. I saw him again at the past and present boxers yesterday. And we need guys like him in the sport. He keeps all this stuff going with the past and present boxers and the Hall of Fame. So yeah, doing an awesome job. Is Damien Membry. All right, I'll let you discuss that. Again, we'll go over it a little bit more next week. Quickly, the women's top 10. You'll see there I've taken out Shannon O'Connell, who looks like she's retired. Susan Ramadan, I'm not quite sure what's happening with her. Word is she's retired as well. So I've taken her out of there. Forgive me. I know if you're overseas, you probably won't know much about this list, but if you are the Aussies and know a bit about it, let me know. Forgive me if I've... what have we got there? Forgive me if I've forgotten anyone in the female ranks. I just did it today quickly, but I've got number 1. Actually, we'll start from number 10. Number 10, Deanna D.D. Hobbs. Good fighter, very inactive recently. I've got number 9, Ella Boot, doing really good things under Johnny Lewis, is progressing through there. Desley Robinson won the Australian title last weekend at middleweight, I think it was. Good prospect. Millie Agbo Bullen, is that how you pronounce it? Who absolutely obliterated Taylor Harris a couple of weeks ago. She really, really good. I won't say young prospect. She's 40 years old, but really happy for Millie. She fought really well. And, yeah, made Taylor Harris look pretty ordinary, didn't she? Number 6, I've got Jazzy Parr. Really, really good young prospect is Jazzy. Great stock from John Wayne Parr, of course, his daughter. 5, I've got Taylor Robinson. 4, Beck Hawker. 3, Shanika Johnson. I've got 2, Sky Nicholson, and 1, Ebony Bridges. So that is my top 10. What do you think of that? So again, Ebony Bridges 1, Sky Nicholson 2, Shanika Johnson 3, Beck Hawker 4, Taylor Robinson 5, Josie Parr 6, Millie Agboag Bullen number 7, Desley Robinson number 8, number 9, Ella Boot, number 10, Deanna D.D. Hobbs. So that's the rankings there. We'll quickly go back to the males. What do we got there? How is that about the Crown? Yeah, it's that's the Boxing Hall of Fame pound for pound king. It's I'm not sure it's the Palladium Room, but it was at the Crown Casino last year, and I had a ball. I really did, and it's a really good opportunity to get up close and personal to your favourite fighters. Remember, this is the Australian Boxing Hall of Fame. All the best fighters from the generations are there. As I said before, I've sat down with Jeff Fennick and Lester Ellis and Robbie Peden and Barry Michael. Last year had a good chat to Jai Patai was there with Mick Francis. They're all there. So It's a really good chance. They're all just there. They have dinner. They present the inductees, and you can get around. You get photos, autographs, and a lot of videos. If you didn't see it last year, it is on this channel, the YouTube channel. I did a video of the night. I will do it again this year as well. I'll get some interviews and some footage and all that sort of stuff. It's a great night, and support Australian boxing. So that's that's why it's in Melbourne, mate, because all the people that organise it are from Melbourne, and the Crown, you won't get a better venue in Melbourne. Well, guys, I think that's it for this evening. Really glad to have you on board. Hang on, we've got one more comment there. I've got there. I used to manage the Maloney. Not manage. I used to promote them, Andy. And they are awesome guys. Now, and Andy will be coming down for the induction with Jason as well. So you can get there, you can meet them, photos, autographs, whatever it might be, selfie, whatever turns you on, I suppose. But Andy, I did used to promote the boys. I think I promoted 9 of their fights before they went to top rank, and you will not find better guys. So humble and down to earth, and role models for any good boxing or sports people or just young men in general. They both are. So, guys, that's it for this week's episode. If you haven't checked it out yet, look on YouTube for George Cambosis, Maxie Hughes, What's Your Verdict? And also the weekly roundup, which will be out again this Friday. And I've got a few other shows I'm looking at as well to bring out in the next few weeks. So, as always, thanks very much for joining in the show. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And we'll see you next week. Catch you then.